Welcome, everyone, to today's webinar titled Taking the Pain Out of Treasury. My name is Lee Patton, Assistant Director of Business Development at Strategic Treasury, and we are pleased that you could join us as we discuss the results and implications of the Frontline survey taken both live at the 2023 AFP Conference and online. Our speaker for today is Craig Jeffery, Founder and Managing Partner of Strategic Treasury. Welcome, Craig. I'll now turn the presentation over to you.
Thank you, Lee. Welcome, everyone. So glad you joined us for some of your Thursday afternoon or late morning with us on Taking the Pain Out of Treasury. I'm excited about this topic. For those of you who are at the AFP, I think you probably know why we're so excited, because of what was covered. We had this ping pong ball voting that occurred, and at the same time we had some voting occur on an offline basis. But let me not spoil all of that by going through what we're going to cover today. So we'll begin with challenges. What are some of the challenges that are straining Treasury? We'll talk about some of the things about the markets, geopolitical issues, expectations, some banking troubles, etc. Kind of moderate level headwinds that are facing Treasury today. A little bit moderated from before, but still not minor, not calm seas. We'll look at the survey results from both the combined ping pong ball voting plus voting online. Where is Treasury hurting? We looked at five different areas, and we'll go through those in reverse priority order. And as part of that, as we go through it, we'll look at some of the solutions to find relief. What can you do to help solve and relieve some of those problems? And we'll do those in context as opposed to storing them up at the end. And then key takeaways, it's really some of my final thoughts about how to think through these challenges, how to prioritize them, how to resource them. So there's quite a bit to cover throughout the discussion, but we've got just 30 minutes and 28 minutes left. So again, thank you for your time. But what are some of those challenges that are creating strains and stressors? Most of you are going to be very familiar with these, and that makes perfect sense. We've got markets coming back into alignment. Inflation has been moderating since the Fed has increased their rates quite significantly, so that's bringing it down. They're hoping for a soft landing. Inflation's around 4%, a little over 4%. The target is 2%. Fed funds is a little over 5.25. Unemployment's in getting into that sweet spot range. They don't want it to go too much lower because of wage pressures, but we're right at 3.9%. On the geopolitical front, there's multiple wars, more than the two that are listed here. Anytime I mention just a couple of wars or major combats, people send me notes about how many there are, and there's certainly a lot of conflict in this world. But those are two, the Russia, Ukraine, and Israel and Hamas are certainly creating and continuing concerns in Europe. That war's been going on for quite some time. If you talk to Europeans, or if you're European, phrases like "we have war in Europe" in our day, and that's pretty troublesome. And then you've got the Middle East conflict going on there. Are these going to be local? Are they going to spread? And so those are some of the backdrop for those that aren't directly involved. It still is concerning, certainly if you're involved. That's a big issue because that can impact, lives, people, and company activity. So these are creating challenges for Treasury even outside those regions. On the banking front, you have Silicon Valley Bank, First Republic, Signature Bank. Some of those troubles are financial counterparties. The rise in rates, the shift, those have created some strains and stresses, and people are looking to make sure their assets are safe, especially since Treasury is the steward of the most liquid resources of an organization and need to take particular care there. Those are some of the headline articles. There's certainly other ones that are consistent. So escalation of fraud threats and successes. This is every year. It's, you and your peers say these threats are increasing. They're increasing in frequency, level of sophistication, and success is helping them. And the use of tech on the offense side, on the criminal side, is increasing their escalation and their results. So this is this escalating war. We have expectations on risk management. As risk ebb and flow and shift from foreign exchange to interest rate shifts and concerns about slowdown. Even though right now it looks like most of Europe, the U.S. will be slightly positive GDP growth for the year, and it looks positive for next year. It's not it's certainly not roaring. Better shape, I would say, than most everyone was looking at 6-9 months ago. I'll just mention one other item here on the staffing and age cohort issue is, Zoomers are now in the marketplace. They're taking over supervisory roles and manager roles as they're moving through and gaining more responsibility. And there's this, not perennial, but, seasonal as these age cohorts shift, how the workforce gets along, how they work together, what's expected, what remains. Certainly there's battles between the age cohorts, but there's much to learn. That's some of the background here, what's going on, what's the level of care that we need. That brings us to poll question number 1. What's your greatest pain point? And it is December 7th. That's the way we help keep track of things in our database. Which of the following is your greatest pain point? So you're picking one: staffing limitations, data and analytics, rework from errors, so that's an efficiency one, liquidity forecasting, liquidity management and forecasting, and fraud and controls. So go ahead and answer which one is your greatest pain point. After you select it, you fill in one of those options, hit submit or enter, and then it will come to us in the chat box. If you could go ahead and follow us on LinkedIn, there's a link there. That would be awesome, and we would greatly appreciate that. And I'm going to say, if we get, let's just say 50 people typing the word poll, 49 now, typing the word poll, we'll send out these responses, or the response to all poll questions in the package after things are done. All right, so the answers are back. Let me maybe get my pen. Let's see, we got the lowest one is rework from errors at 7%. So that's number 5. Let's see. Number 4 is, looks like it's 15% fraud and controls. And if we look at the third is staffing limitations is third, and number 2 is data and analytics, and liquidity and forecasting is number 1. That's awesome. Awesome in one sense. Let me explain what I mean by that. This is the box that we had put. This was the brainchild of Kai Casanova, who's our head of marketing. And she said, let's build boxes and have people draw things and get prizes, but vote with the ping pong balls because we do data. It was a brilliant idea. And then I had to build this. And so that's what happened. And people voted. So this is from the floor of the AFP. And if you look between the staffing limitations, the purple one, and the right-hand side, you see someone dressed in white. That is Lee, who was talking earlier. So Lee Patton. So if he calls you, you can say, I saw you between the voting booth, voting option. So what was number 1? We had the exact same order in today's webinar as we did then. So number 1 was liquidity forecasting. 2 was data and analytics. 3, on the right-hand side, staffing limitations, pulling back slightly to fraud and controls. And then the lowest one is rework from errors. And again, this is a rank them number 1 to number 5. Not rank them number 1 to number 5, but select the greatest pain point. It'd be interesting to have a forced ranking too, to see if certain other things come up. And that's why we love surveys and research. But I've got to already pick up the pace. And if we look and see rework from errors, 6% pick that in the in our research. So why is rework from errors so low? Why is rework from errors an issue? Obviously, other things were more of a priority for most of them. Errors create rework. Errors create, errors are defects. Defects have to be repaired. They impact up and downstream people. They're a significant issue. So what do we do to fix that? How do we eliminate errors? A couple key points you can see in the boxes below. Review a process. Many of you are familiar with root cause analysis. What are unneeded steps? Can we make steps efficient? But before that becomes, can we eliminate them? If we can eliminate a step, we do so. If not, we make it efficient, which means we automate it. Manual processes leads to the greatest number of defects. Poorly designed processes lead to other defects. So review your processes. And then on the upper right-hand side, it's do that on an end-to-end basis. A limited view leads to limited value. And then the famous quote attributed to several different people as well as to anonymous is optimizing part of the process sub-optimizes the whole. So you're optimizing a couple handoffs, but you're not thinking the end from the beginning. And so taking the broader view, at least in your organization, is better than within a department. And the full end-to-end view will help reduce errors, allow for more scalability. And then we already mentioned automation. Have digital handoffs, not manual handoffs. Manual handoffs create problems and create pulls. I think I said pulls. I just read the side. Manual handoffs. Manual processes create handoffs. Handoffs usually create some kind of control mechanism, and automation stops that from happening. It allows for greater scalability, more efficiency. And delays are not just about efficiency, but they're about capital efficiency. All right, so we are moving on to fraud and controls. Fraud and controls is big. It continues every year. I think it shows up on everyone's top 3 list if they make a list of top 3, but we picked one. This was 17%. So about 3 times as many people picked this as rework from errors. What do you need to do to fix this? 4 things we'll talk about real briefly. One is payment flow assessment. Have your payment flows assessed. Either do that yourself or get someone to assist you. We do that as part of our business models, help people assess their payment flows from a security, control, and efficiency standpoint. What happens on these is you find more payment flows than you think happen in your organization. Oftentimes, it's about double. You think you have 25, you probably have 50. And this is usually due to organizations adding companies, acquiring companies. This allows you to see your points of exposure, the level of exposure you might have, and how you can put compensating controls. The second thing is on the payment hub side. There's new formats, new payment rails, there's new requirements for compliance. So payment hubs can help create consistent process, well-controlled process. This is from some of our research. Small and medium businesses in North America are expected to double their use within the next couple of years. So people are moving to this type of technology to help. The bank security services side, your bankers tell you, here are security features. Believe them. They're not getting rich off of them. They're protecting your organization by suggesting or even requiring that you use those. These are commercially reasonable procedures. Pay, match positive pay, electronic positive pay for things like ACH, UPIC for providing one-way direction for ACH is coming in, and so on. These are very, very reasonable things. Listen to your banker and put those services in place. They're doing that for your protection as much as protecting their clients. So it's really for your benefit. The last element here is payment security training. The human element is an important firewall, the human firewall, if you will. The human firewall needs to be upgraded just like your computer. Use leading practices, which means train and test at least every year. The majority of banks are doing this more frequently than yearly, and corporations are training and testing. The majority are training and testing. And we think that training and testing should not just be cybersecurity training, but payment security training. It has to be specific about payments because of the threat and the risk. Now that finishes us off with the first 2. Now let's cover the third one, which is on staffing limitations. Treasury's always been thinly staffed. There's more to do, more analysis, different risk seems to emerge and expectations change over time. So this is important. You have limitations. So maybe you need to get more staff support. This can be done through third parties. This can be done by making and justifying additional staff. But a couple things around the horn here for what are the recommendations. One, automation. The ability to use tools productively is important. Especially if you have Zoomers come in who are digital natives, leverage their generally superior facility with technology to help your team and anybody else who's good at it too. So that's the only way you can measure your exposures effectively. On the AI front, artificial intelligence, this is the next industrial revolution level event happening. It's changing how things are done. This will certainly help Treasury get more done in the time frame they need. We don't think it's going to reduce staffing in that area. It certainly is reducing staffing in other areas, but it helps with speed and quality. But there's a significant concern that staff is not keeping up on the AI front. So whether it's ChatGPT, Bard, or other things that maybe you're bringing AI in-house, staff should be, should keep up. So what are the skill sets that are necessary to support this automation, use and leverage AI and generative AI? Maybe there's nothing to do today for your organization, but you can certainly be experimenting with it, learning and testing it out, not putting confidential information out into one of those engines, but moving from there. There's certainly cohort differences in the view of technology as you move from boomers all the way down to Zoomers, and recognize the differences and work on the strengths and the weaknesses together. There's some complementarity that can really help organizations thrive quite well by leveraging the different staff areas. There's a lot more on that. We'll also put some information about some research we're doing on the AI front as well, since that's touched on here. Poll question number 2 is up, and we're ready for you to respond. Why does the pain point you selected continue to be a pain point? It's not being addressed, limited budget. It's not being addressed, low priority. And this is a select all that apply. Hopefully you won't put items that cancel each other out, but go ahead and list these items. And as you do those, then hit submit. The other thing, while you're doing that, I will mention on the staffing side, sometimes organizations have needs for temporary staffing due to maternity leave, or maybe there's a big project going on. Need staff for cash positioning, forecasting, assistant treasurer level activity, and just by way of letting you know that we provide those staffing services for companies on a permanent basis and on a leave basis. So that's certainly something to address when everyone has those speeches about that it's going to be a really tough time the next year and a half while we all work 80 hours. There are other ways to address those without frying your staff. So a couple things there too. Think about some things that we do. We'd be happy to talk to you about it. Lee in particular would be happy to talk to you about it. So a number of reasons. What do we have? Top issue, it's being addressed but inadequately, limited bandwidth. That is the challenge of capacity. Tech and additional resources on the people side matter. Number 2 comes in that it's limited expertise. So you might need some other resources who've done something 2, 3, 4, 5 times to get you up to speed. Whether that's establishing a new counterparty risk management or monitoring dashboard, whether it's putting technology in place or selecting technology. Number 3, it's not being addressed, a low priority or limited budget. Those are tie at 20%. We'd like to, but don't have the staff. So resources, bandwidth, expertise, quite a few different options there. Certainly some ways to address that based on what we just discussed. But we'll move on from there to number 2. We're down to number 2. So this is not the David Letterman top 10 This is Strategic Treasurer's top 5, or your top 5, what you put in there. Data and analytics, 26%. So you can see we're getting tight here. The top 3 are fairly close, 22%, 26%, and those who are good at math will be able to figure out the last one is about 29%. But data and analytics, if you look at the explosion of data, data is doubling every couple of years. It's really remarkable. Your company generates more data. There's more data available. You need the data to do analysis. So we've gone from this period of time where there wasn't the data and we couldn't get the data to now we're getting buried by the data. So what do we do here? A couple things. When we work with companies, we usually look at what's the future state for technology? What do you need from a data, connectivity, system, and reporting and analytics layers? Figure out what's necessary there, and then what that tech stack needs to look like, and then what are the ways to get to that future tech stack as promptly as possible. Key points here: tech has changed dramatically. It's far more powerful. The democratization of much more powerful technology brings it down to the small and medium business level. This has not been the case before, so it's much more affordable. It's much more powerful. So on the roadmap, understand where you want to get to, and then what are the logical steps on the way to doing that. This is one of these are some of the most enjoyable projects we get involved in with companies, seeing what can be done, how Treasury can be transformed, and technology's role in that, along with people, structures, technologies, and tech. Data lake for Treasury might be data lake for finance, but find a place to house the data, work with your IT group, volunteer to have use cases, pump in structured, unstructured, or semi-structured data, have tools that can help analyze that, whether it's business intelligence tools, maybe you're using some different analytics engines as well, but finding a place to pour this data in, data from across the organization, from third-party systems, allows you to do much more analysis, far faster, both on a self-service level, as well as using artificial intelligence. Let you discover, make those decisions, and also set the machines after some analysis. On the business intelligence side, we look at the fact that there's more data. It's no longer the domain of just the experts at running reports, but analytics is now more in self-service mode. It's more of the democratization of analytics. You put that in there, you layer some tools on, far more people can run the self-discovery route. Ask a question, learn, ask 2 more questions, get those answers as opposed to having a long delay process. So it's faster learning, and it's more immediate and in context. That brings us to our number 1, liquidity forecasting. This is 29%, so about 5 times rework from errors, just under double fraud and controls, and you can see its proportion. So number 1, edged out data analytics, by a 3-point margin, 4-point margin between staffing limitations, and we go 5 points and 11-point difference. So liquidity forecasting, forecasting is usually it's either the top or one of the top activities for organizations in the Treasury space. It's been that way for probably 8 or 10 years. They would spend more time on it. They plan to spend more money on it. And there's a value to it. So what are some of the options here? 4 things. I'll touch on these really briefly. Forecast, process, review. What's the nature of your cash flows? Are they cyclical? Are there certain businesses that are cyclical? Are they seasonal? What are the trends? What's material? What's changing over time? Is what you know in your head out of date by 2, 3, 4 years, and things have shifted? So review the forecast. What's going on? What's the nature of these? How are you getting the information? And then to the right, you can see variance analysis. Once you have a forecast, you're capturing a system. How effective and how accurate is your forecast? A variance analysis done through automation helps this to be an iterative learning process where you learn what's working, what's not. You can explore the reasons for the difference, find and update your model, or source additional information. And so this is a way of improving and updating the models over time. Just like your machine learning can learn, do better over time, variance analysis helps point those out. Whether you're looking at those flows, more on a traditional analytical level, or whether you're using artificial intelligence. These are ways to help improve your models over time. Because everyone wants to do more in forecasting, they spend the most time on forecasting. They would spend more time and they plan to spend money. It's just not possible to solve those issues by just selecting that in every poll and survey each year. Tech has to be used to leverage the power, create more models, run them faster, learn better. Once we hit COVID, I think it was a majority of companies started putting together 2 or 3 forecasts, cash flow forecasts, not having a primary one, but having multiple ones. Now, many have stopped doing that many forecasts, but still do several. Huge opportunity to leverage technology. We'd love to have conversations with you about what technology makes sense for your organization, where's the value in a forecast, how to put these models in place, and to create this virtuous cycle of ever-improving forecasts. I'm going to skip the last one about optimal implementation. I'll let you read that on the package that comes to you, but I wanted to get to, I'm going to sit on that slide as opposed to, well, I'll sit here. So what's the summary? We said, what are the key takeaways? Understand that your priorities are your priorities, and go after them. You need to know, prioritize, and resource them. And so let's say perhaps it's you need human training, you need your humans trained on payment security. We have a course, securetreasury.com, which has training, video, it's written, there's support materials, there's testing, and it's focused on payment security. We can share some information with you about that. This is a great way to get people trained on payment security, not just cybersecurity training. As you look at the screen, you can see strategictreasury.com schedule. Feel free to have an introductory call to talk about your pain points. Are there things that you need to do? Are there things that we might be able to help you with? We appreciate your time. We appreciate that you spent time talking about these needs. And thank you. I know many of you know us as presenting a lot of content. We also do consulting. We have training. We provide different materials. That's how we provide these services. We'd love to share more with you. If there's any way we can help you with data, information, advice, services, technology, let us know. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Lee. Thank you so much for your time today. And thank you, especially for everybody who voted. Lee.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. As Craig said, if you would like to talk further, please schedule an introduction by visiting strategictreasurer.com/schedule, and I will promptly respond. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your week and the upcoming weekend. Thank you.